Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about this week's full moon in Libra on the 16th of April at 11:55 Pacific time. So, but before I start, I just want to do a little bit of business. First of all of my videos are based on whole sign Western astrology. I go by the rising sign. So if you're listening to this, you want to listen to your rising sign. I also think the moon is as important as the rising sign, if not more important, and then your sun sign. For those of you that aren't familiar with astrology, the rising sign is reflective of your perceptions, how you walk through the world, your natural, is the glass half full or half empty, just to put it in a black and white way. The moon is going to represent your emotional body. And the interesting thing about the moon is, from the Earth's perspective, you only see one side of the moon, always the man in the moon. The dark side of the moon is, to me, more indicative of what happens on the inside of our bodies, what we don't speak of, but what we feel. And what we feel is based on our beliefs, and our beliefs indicate our actions, and our actions reflect our manifestations, what we experience out into the world. So because of that, I have created a webinar. It's actually going to be a series of webinars based on the moon and the moon's nodes. I believe that the moon's nodes are reflective of our soul's imprint, personality, for lack of a better term. So on the eclipse, April 30th, I'll be doing my first webinar, and it's going to be focused on the accesses of the nodes and what they mean. So it's kind of a general sort of giving you a basis to build upon. And throughout the series, what I intend to do is create a dynamic where you can see through the chart what your soul's intention is for this life, and how you can best go about working with your strengths and weaknesses. And rather than looking them as weaknesses, looking at them as places where you can excel. So this webinar is going to be on Saturday, April 30th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I think it's going to run about 2 hours. It's $19.99 if you sign up before April 25th. Anytime after April 25th, it will be $29.99. You can reach me through my email. I don't have a link set up just yet. I'm working on all these technical things. I'm a little bit challenged on them, but I will. My email address is below in the description, and you can reach out to me and sign up that way. Okay. So let's go on to what I want to talk about with this full moon in Libra. Wow. Okay. So the full moon is the culmination of a cycle that began with the new moon. The new moon was in October 2021, and it was the planting of a seed in some ways, a seed that would have had to do with your peace of mind, your partnerships, both personal and professional, any contractual partnerships. It would also have to do with potentially how you are relating to the world in the way of fairness and diplomacy, justice. So I would look back in April and see what was going on in your life, and look specifically at the important relationships in your life, both professional and personal, because this full moon is at 26 degrees and it is making a T-square to Pluto in Capricorn at 28 degrees. A full moon is where the moon and the sun are in an opposition. So it's like they're like in warrior pose. Okay. Then they're making a degree, a point to Pluto. So it's like a big triangle that looks like this. That's why they call it a T-square. This is pointing to transformation. It is pointing on some level, Pluto is going to represent a death. but the caterpillar must die for the butterfly to live. And I want to offer it this way, because I was just saying that the moon is so important because we only see one side of the moon. We only see one side of our emotional body. And what I believe that Pluto does, because it represents death and rebirth, it will kill the lies you tell yourself that are not authentic to your heart, to what your emotional body needs to thrive and to excel, both on the earthly plane and out of body. So this seems super important to me. And it almost seems like the Libra full moon also represents for me this dynamic of co-creation, right? You cannot have peace by yourself unless maybe you live on an island somewhere, I don't know, but peace within our communities, peace within our relationships, harmony, those things, how do I contribute to them? Because passivity is not always contributing in a healthy way if it is harboring resentment or creating or building up some sort of unhappiness on one side. So I hope this is making sense. I'm going to go through each sign and I'm going to talk about where the full moon is and in what house Pluto is sitting in. So this should give you an idea of where the transformation will take place. And I want to offer it this way as well. This could be, Pluto rules billionaires. Pluto rules power and control, and it doesn't have to be negative, especially with the Libra influence. So if indeed back in October, there was a seed planted that said, I'm going to be authentic in this way, then this full moon could very well be the culmination of anything that wasn't working and bringing in things that are working. Again, this idea of Pluto being the destroyer of the lies you tell yourself. All right, so let's start with our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. The new moon, the full moon is in your 7th house, Libra. And it is making a square, well, the T-square to Capricorn in your 10th house. The Pluto is at 28 degrees. I see things in layers. 28 degrees reduces down to a 10, which to me is a 1, which is reflective of my thought. The full moon is a 26 degrees, which reduces down to an 8. And the 8 is the number of abundance. So as an Aries rising, moon, sun, and if there's a stellium in Aries, meaning 3 or more planets, this is going to be very powerful. This is an opportunity for you to really feel the power of your own transformation by being aware of your thought and using your Aries energy, that energy of the pioneer, the energy of, Aries rules firefighters and heroes. Okay. So as you kind of get into the idea that a hero isn't just somebody who goes into danger, but it's how you are a hero. Heroes come in all sorts of ways. So this is an opportunity for you to really stand out in the 10th house of your career. The 10th house sits at the very top of the chart. It's considered the most public house. So this is an opportunity for Aries to go in and rewrite how the public is seeing them and perceiving them. And, there's this dynamic where Aries can feel difficult and then in times of need, reveal their value through their courage. And maybe in some respects, this courage that Aries shows up through the full moon, my emotional body, is to see where you've been participating in wherever your career hasn't excelled. And now is a time to allow for that. Let's see what Spirit has to say for this full moon in Libra. It is making the T-square is a very challenging aspect. But again, if indeed the lies that you tell yourself, and I don't want to make this dark and nasty, but a lie could be, I'm not valuable. My talents aren't good enough. I'm too this, or people don't think I'm that. I'm talking about the lies that get in your way, the lies that make you feel less than. All right, Aries, our first angel for this Archangel Uriel, which represents anger and frustration and unforgiveness. And Aries, I got to say, I'm an Aries rising. I know. And this is going to make my Aries rising is at 26 degrees Aries. It's an exact opposition to my sun and sitting on my, it's going to be fun. Archangel. Okay. Then we had Athena in the angels in the opportunity. Let me start over. Archangel Uriel in the foundational position, Athena in the opportunity or the obstacle, Archangel Raphael in the angel's advice, and then Fiona is in the final position. This is beautiful, okay? Because this is Aries, every sign in the zodiac, and this is why I'm doing this seminar, webinar, whatever, is some sort of polarization, right? So Aries, your opposite sign is Libra. So this is a way of balancing you pushing yourself forward and yet still learning how to do that in cooperation and harmony with others. So rather than them being resistant to your endeavors, they are more cooperative. And that's something I think Aries always wants. But if the cooperation isn't there, they'll just go charging ahead and like, okay, I can't be bothered, which then doesn't really sit with the other party and then creates a weird illusion that I think doesn't serve either side. So Archangel Uriel's being joined by the communication card. Aries, you're going to learn how to communicate more effectively by lovingly asserting yourself gently and diplomatically. We have the communications card joining Archangel Uriel. We have the deer joining Athena. We have the horse joining Archangel Raphael. And then we have the Lady of the Lake joining Fiona. So here, let me show you. Communication. And then Archangel Uriel, of the four big ones, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael, this particular angel is the most subtle of the energies. It's the one that we feel the least, but I think it's because anger blocks, frustration blocks spirit's message. So it almost feels as if, as you are aware of your communication, Aries, and your communication is it's kind of a couple of things, because we're talking about your 10th house here. This is making a T square to how do you perceive yourself and present yourself in your professional life, in where the public sees you, on the internet, within your work environment, within your community, all of those things. Because Spirit is saying your opportunity is not to be different or dumb yourself down, but to realize that gentleness and diplomacy will take you a lot further. You can say exactly the same thing with more awareness rather than just pushing through. Because here's Archangel Raphael in the angel's advice. And then we have the horse. And the horse is a very intuitive card for me, but it's also represents sort of this Sagittarius idea. I know that we weren't really talking about today is the conjunction, and technically the conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter. This sort of represents Sagittarius. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius and represents wealth. There's wealth offered through the epiphany of you realizing it's not what you say, it's how you say it, Aries. It's how you emote in the way of your awareness. Would I receive my own communication favorably? Would I respond in a cooperative way? Or would I tell someone, hey, jump off the next bridge. I don't like what you're saying to me? Because Fiona says that now you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And the Lady of the Lake is about courage, self-respect, and responsibility, and your truth. So I think that what's happening here on this full moon is there's been a 6-month cycle for Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums to be more aware of how they're communicating, how effective they are being, how they're landing on other people. And rather than dumbing yourself down or being pissed off because the other person isn't getting it, it's more about putting yourself in their shoes and this sort of awareness of the give and take, Libra, partnership, energy, back and forth, exchange of communication. And I think this is going to make a big difference in your professional life. And I think it might even work in your favor because people know where you've been, and to see your evolution is even more palatable than you just being that way all around or regular is the way I want to put it. Okay, let's go on to our Tauruses. If you don't know your moon sign or your rising sign, you just need your time of birth. The time of birth is extremely important. My sister had twins and they are born, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 minutes apart. They have different rising signs. And while all the other planets on their natal chart are pretty much the same, their rising sign is different, and it makes their personalities and their perceptions completely different. So I would look that up. So here we're going to talk about Taurus rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I'm a Taurus moon. This is happening in your 6th house is the Libra full moon, and it will be making a challenging aspect to your 9th house. The 9th house in general represents our beliefs. It represents higher education, philosophy. The key words are the wanderer, the gypsier, the nomad, the philosopher, the philanthropist, even the priest. And so while this is in Capricorn, I think it's going to have to do with how you view leadership, your service. The 6th house by nature rules service, rules employment, rules health. So Libra is your 6th house. How are you in cooperation and in harmony with your service in the world, with your view of your service? Because we certainly don't want you to feel enslaved. And if this T square, and they say T because I can't remember, all of a sudden went out of my brain, but I want to say it this way, because the apex being Pluto is asking Taurus to be more flexible, to allow the death not to be perceived as a death per se, but more of a natural evolution of you working so hard. Taurus by nature rules the 2nd house, which rules money. It rules self-worth. It rules the throat and our skills, and in some ways singing and speaking. And so I think that there's some sort of transformation about, I almost want to say an integration of beliefs. So you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but let's see what Spirit has to say about this. So again, we're looking at a culmination of a cycle, but that culmination is almost like an opportunity to apply wisdom, what we've learned over this last 6 months. Who knows? Could be 60 years. All right, Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The first angel is Teresa. The second angel is Shanti, the angel of peace. The third is Bridget, and the angel's advice, and the final is Oceana. So Capricorn being the 9th house for Taurus could be sort of an imprint of authority, an imprint of a little bit of oppression. Like it's almost like I can't do what I want to do because I need to do what I'm supposed to do. And I think this is where the liberation may come in, where the full moon may illuminate a new idea. Yes, we have the frog here, release and emotional cleaning up, releasing emotional baggage. We have Shanti being joined by the butterfly. We have Bridget being joined by the trust card, and Oceana being joined by the fire fairy. Okay. So Teresa for me represents worry, and oftentimes worry about what other people are thinking and about other people. So Taurus, having Libra be your 6th house, the 6th house is partnership represented by Libra, both professional and personal. Contractual partnership. It's also in some ways similar to service, because when you are a diplomat, when you're representing harmony and peace, you're working for more than one person. Now we have this in a T square to your beliefs and how you are perceived by authority. Okay, so because Teresa for me really represents worrying about other people and what they think, and there is the frog offering you emotional cleanup to literally have your mind have an epiphany that says, you know what, I'm doing the best I can do, and I'm going to be authentic to my wants and desires, because as I allow that transformation, again, we have a death represented by Pluto, and the death is the death of the lies that you tell yourself. Taurus being a fixed moon, and I know this, the moon is also in its best favor in Taurus. So this last few months, I've really looked at where I've held myself small, where I've thought that I wasn't palatable to the outside world. And this is a part of my Aries rising. I'm a little forceful. But I think Shanti, the angel of peace, also Libran, representing this Venusian energy, there's transformation for Taurus in your belief system. And in some ways, you're learning to look deeper into the trust factor. And the trust is not just trusting spirit, but trusting that if you follow your heart and worry less about other people, creative action. And honestly, I feel like Spirit is going to bring in literally a wave of emotional comfort that brings in more positivity and more creative inspirations for Taurus. Taurus is a very creative sign. It is, to me, it rules interior designers and people who make things beautiful. It rules chefs and food. So if for some reason Taurus has had a belief that they weren't good enough at something, that they needed to, be like other people in order to be accepted, I think that's going to die and you're going to have a whole new rebirth. And that's what this last 6 months has been, either in your face telling you or on a subliminal level, because Pluto is taking no prisoners, okay? And it's been floating around in the end of Capricorn forever and a day, and all the cardinal signs are feeling it. And while Taurus is not a cardinal sign per se, it is making an aspect. So, all right, let's go on to our Geminis. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to be in your 5th house of romance. So Gemini's 5th house is Libra, the house of partnerships. And this is making an aspect, a challenging aspect to Pluto in your 8th house. Pluto rules the 8th house by nature. Now, again, the 8th house here is Capricorn. Capricorn rules stoic behavior. It can be a little depressing, I got to tell you, because it does what other people want it to do. Not every Capricorn does, but it's sort of the more challenging side of it. So when we're talking about a full moon making an aspect of Pluto, it's going to be referring to the challenging side of the dynamic. So what are you thinking about in your house of romance, of fun? The 5th house naturally rules fun, entertainment, actors, games, hobbies, crafts, the conception of children. It rules high school children as well. And then there's the 8th house of transformation. So let's see what Spirit has to say for Gemini. What are you pretending you don't know that is disempowering you? And I want to say it this way, because I think Gemini, maybe it's about having more fun. Are you working too hard? You're ruled by Mercury, and Mercury rules work. Lots of work. Because it rules communications and emails and IT and all sorts of stuff. All right, Gemini. Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture. A happy outcome follows your positive expectation. Bethany is the card of self-care. I think that's where I was going with this, right? Having fun, going out, doing fun things. Archangel Gabriel, ruling communications in everyday life. And then we have patience, asking you to observe your life from a new perception. That's what the full moon is. A new perception. And I want to offer again, because I said at the beginning of the video, we only ever see one side of the moon from the Earth's plane. So Gemini, ruling twins, maybe it's time to pay attention to the side of the moon that nobody sees, but is still part of you. That's an important part of you that needs to be nurtured, needs to be taken care of and loved by you, so others. Okay. Isabella is joined by the Trust card. Bethany is joined by the Wasp card. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Frog. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Frog. And the final card, Patience, is being joined by the Mystery card. Okay, so I want to offer this because the Trust card is an interesting thing, because I really do not trust other humans on a consistent and I don't trust humans, forget about it. I'm just going to say it. I trust spirit and I trust inspiration and I trust that if my mind is aligned to what I want to experience, even if I'm in a wobble about it, it is the continued pulling myself back into that focus that's going to shift things, and the laws of attraction are going to kick in and they're going to take over. Because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture. And the trust card is here, and it's the 47. And I think there's a little bit of Gemini that can't help but go back and forth in their thought. You are ruled by Mercury, you rule communications, you rule everyday activities, and on some level, you rule the monkey mind. So if you have been challenged in romance, if you've been feeling like, or you feel like I can't go out and have fun, or I can't enjoy myself because I need to make sure other people are okay, I think maybe it's time to put that away just for a minute. It's not about abandoning those that you love, but maybe putting yourself at the top of the list, because I think that this full moon is illuminating where you're a little pissed off that you aren't taking care of yourself, or you're feeling depleted in some way. And this feels emotional. It does not feel like it's necessarily physical. So Gemini, allowing yourself to rest, or allowing yourself the privilege of some sort of fifth house, sitting mindlessly doing the crossword puzzle is really not mindless. It's practicing a quiet mind. And maybe some people, Capricorn, your 8th house, where this tense apex is happening, will be saying, "What? That's wasted time. Come on, let's do stuff. Let's go move. Production. No, that's burnout just waiting to happen." Because the angels are saying, look at how you're communicating with yourself and allowing yourself the privilege of releasing some of these ties that bind you to I should do this, I should do that, I should get that done. Because in the final position is the patience card and the mystery card. And I want to offer it this way, because patience is never about holding my breath or trying to wait for something to be bestowed upon me. Patience is an observation of the landscape, an observation of my point of view, an observation if I'm being habitual, how am I contributing to the manifestation of my own life? Because yes, the timing is right to trust the universe. And maybe Gemini's mind has been going, blah, 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 blah. If I don't do something, nothing's going to happen. And the universe is saying, take care of yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get cranky, because it's up to us now to inspire you, to show you what the next action is going to be. So let us kind of calm. The full moon's going to illuminate something, and every ending is a new beginning. So the ending could be of the lies that you tell yourself that you're not valuable, or what you want in life is hard and you have to work and constantly be on that hamster wheel. And I feel like, let's take a little Venusian energy. Let's play fifth house. Let's enjoy ourselves. Let's feel a little luxury. Maybe you do need a massage or a manicure, even if I don't care if you're a guy or a girl. So anyway, all right. So that's for our Geminis. Let's go on to our Cancer rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Cancer, I got to say this. You've been going through it. Pluto's been opposing you. It is your opposite on the axis. And you guys couldn't be more different in some ways. Capricorn is very stoic, and, Cancer is nothing. It's emotional. It's just like an emotional bouncy house. That's the way I want to put it, because it's just everything's like comes through your heart chakra. So this Libra full moon is going to be in your 4th house of home, and it's going to be making a challenging aspect to your 7th house of partnerships, Capricorn. So I really think that there's the potential, before I even pull the cards, that Cancer, you naturally rule the 4th house. It is ruled by the moon as well. And self-care is in some ways the best way to nurture others, because if you're caring for others out of balance, you too will be overloaded. And then that crab is going to crawl, and then it's going to bite. And I think this is really, for me, I feel like Spirit has been telling me over and over again that the balance between self-care and care of others is only as good as truly our self-care is. Because if we don't ever see ourselves as valuable, who will. All right, let's go Cancer and see what's happening in your fourth house. What is this full moon going to illuminate for you? And bring, what opportunities will Pluto bring as you're willing to let the lies you tell yourself die? Again, those lies could be, I'm not valuable. It's never going to happen. I'm old. My eggs are dying, you know, it's BS. Okay. Our first angel is Archangel Michael. The second is Seraphina. The third is Indriel. And the final is Azure. Yay. Oh, dang it. Sorry, I just dropped a whole bunch of cards, so I'm going to have to get up and get them. So excuse me for a minute. I'm fabulously flawed, in case anybody doesn't know it. Whoa, don't do that again. Okay. All right, Cancer, here we go. A good shuffle, as if falling on the floor wasn't shuffle enough. All right, Archangel Michael is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Seraphina is being joined by the Fear card. Indriel is being joined by the Hawk. And Azure is being joined by the Deer. Oh, you know, I want to say it this way. The human is really starting to take more, or starting to allow more emphasis on the way they feel and how they think and what they want to birth in the world. And back in the day, it was like, I don't care how you feel. Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn, just do it. Okay. And this created a lot of faux harmony. That's the way I want to put it. And I feel like right now there's a little bit of spirit saying to Cancer regarding your family house, fourth house of family in Libra, partnerships, have the courage to look at what you're thinking. Have the courage to look at, if you're having a Debbie Downer moment or David, I don't care moment, whatever you want to call it, it's time to stop. It's time to stop thinking in a less than way. It's time to stop looking to the outside world for your proof that your life is going to happen. It's time to go inside. It's time to go to the dark side of the moon that nobody sees and yet is your most intuitive and most powerful asset. And it's time to say, there's a bigger reason this is taking so long. There's a bigger reason. I am convinced that within 2 years, there's going to be a Million Mom March. I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see a revolution taking back everything to do with the feminine, receiving our bounty. And I don't mean this as far as man and woman. I mean it about our power, our intuitive power, and men or souls in a man's body have the same intuitive energies. They're not exclusive to the female experience. So I think that for Cancer, the first stop for you is to allow yourself to look at how you've been perceiving your seventh house of partnerships, how you have been, saying one thing, but inside feeling something different. Inside being, it's taking too long. It's taking too long. My eggs are dying. Baloney. Because Seraphina is saying a happy change is coming to your family and fear's been blocking you. And, I got to say, no offense to Cancers, but, when you nurture and when your whole job is to make sure other people are safe and okay, you could be a little insecure. It happens. And then there's that whole crab crawl. The crab walks like this, doesn't walk like this. And sometimes when the emotional body is addressed, the human will say, how do you know that? Or, emotions don't matter. You can't see them. They matter the most. So it's time to face your fears and to rise above them and say, no, I'm claiming this, because here's spirit saying that you're a light worker. And again, we're running into this 11, the 29 on the Wind Fairy reduces down to an 11. What is your thought? And as you rise above it, you may realize that you're part of a team that isn't just nurturing humans as a Cancer, rising moon, sun, or stelliums, but you are nurturing humanity by being willing to continue to stay focused on the idea that my family is coming, my partner is on his way. This is so palatable. I'm part of those people that are actually going to experience their greatest joys and successes in what appears to be a later chapter in the human experience as part of a revolution of this small, teeny weeny little lane that most of man have allowed for. Okay. Because as you're saying, your desired outcome will happen in the very near future, Cancer, rising moon, sun, or stelliums. And it's time to blow up that thought that it isn't. It's time to be gentle and diplomatic with yourself instead of pretending you're being gentle and diplomatic with yourself, because your results will really reflect your belief. And sometimes the human allows father time to get in their way. Oh, I'm this age. Oh, I'm that. Oh, blah, 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 blah. It's not true. So let Pluto kill the lie that's in your 7th house of partnerships, and let yourself be illuminated by the full moon that there's a reason why I've walked this path of what appears to be loneliness, because it is giving me a sense of appreciation for what is to come. And in the past, appreciation had nothing to do with relationships. It was cooperative, contractual. I'm going to sell you my daughter so I can have a cow and feed the rest of my family. We're breaking old stories. Okay, let's go on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go. So Leo, this is happening in your 3rd house and is making a challenging aspect to your 6th house. The 3rd house by nature represents everyday activities. It's ruled by Gemini, so it's going to rule communications. It's going to rule IT. It's going to rule what you think, you speak, you teach, you read. It's going to rule school-age children, youth. I'm trying to think, there's other things, sidewalks, escalators, picking your kids up from school, being in the school line, all these kind of weird, mundane things. That's what it rules. The 6th house rules service, and that's where Capricorn is. So let's see what Spirit has to say. Our first angel is Francesca. The second is Yvonne. The third is Bridget. And the final is Isaiah. Okay, Francesca is being joined by the restriction card. Yvonne is being joined by the wealth card. Bridget's being joined by the goblin, and Isaiah is being joined by the fear card. Okay. You know, this is a little challenging for Leo. I'm not going to say it's not. But again, sometimes when you're a fixed sign like Leo and you're ruled by the moon, which is the king of the zodiac, and, you know, you're used to being at the top of the heap on some level. And there may be a little bit of a challenge right now going on with what you're telling yourself about your 6th house of service, about health, about the 6th house is an interesting house because it rules employees and employers. It rules slave and slave owners. It rules health, doctors in the way of, holistic healing as well. So I want to offer it this way because Francesca is saying, what do you visualize right now? Negativity will block your progress. And then we have the restriction card. And I feel a little bit like what this is saying for Leo is, because Leo rules the heart. And the biggest challenge for a Leo rising, moon, sun, or stelliums is to trust your heart, to trust that you will have the support of others when you are authentic to your heart. So there's like a couple of weird things that can happen. Sometimes Leos will dumb down because they're so acutely aware of people's reaction to their authority and their royalty. Leo is royal, okay? And then there's those that can do the opposite and they get more boastful, because this is what I want to offer. Francesca is saying, what do you visualize right now on the restriction card? And I feel like this is giving you an opportunity to really visualize people supporting you, to allow the death of Pluto in the Capricorn 6th house, because this is again at the 28th degree, somewhat of what am I thinking? Allowing for the death of a lie that you've told yourself about not being valuable to others. Because here's Yvonne about being vulnerable, and there's the harmonious wealth card. This is a Libra full moon. So as I look at this being in your 3rd house of how you're perceived by your community, what you think you're perceived by, how you're communicating with others, what the news, listening to Fox News or CNN or any channel, I don't care. I have no political affiliation. Those just came to mind. This is what you're absorbing yourself with. And I really think that it's time to be vulnerable and to claim your harmonious wealth and to look deeper into how you may be co-creating your own discomfort, your own sense of feeling alienated or isolated. Capricorn, it can be a little bit depressing and restrictive. And in the 6th house of service and health, it could really clamp down and start to instill something in your mind. Because I think in the final position, Isaiah is saying it's time to give birth to a new idea about your own fears. And that's what Pluto will sort of instill. Anybody who thinks it's going to die is scared, right? So I want to offer it this way, because the challenges that we have sometimes aren't really current. They are old challenges that we continue to bring in the future because we are fearful of reliving them. And so I think Spirit is saying for Leo, it's really kind of time to restrict or allow Pluto to kill what is not authentic to your heart. And in some ways, if you try to micromanage Spirit, edging God out through the ego, look deeper into a situation. We tend to perceive something, then we start to build on that perception. It starts to become a story. And if we tell that story long enough, we'll start to believe it's true, and it can be absolutely false. And I think that might be what's happening. I had a situation recently where I perceived the lack of communication, 3rd house, as somebody sending me a subliminal message that they didn't like me. I don't know that that was necessarily true. And the interesting part is that party was having health situations going on, anxiety. So here we have the 6th house of health. So Leo, there may be more things going on than you realize. Allow for an illumination and allow for, I think what Spirit wants you to do with this Pluto T-square is to look at your fears and say, how can they empower me? How can I look at this and walk through this and feel more confident and trust my heart more by walking through this? Okay, let's go on to our Virgos. This is going to be in your 2nd house, money and self-worth. Libra being your 2nd house, and it will be making a T-square to your 5th house of romance, of hobbies, of enjoyment and pleasure. Oh my gosh, I just totally saw what's going on here. This full moon, Virgo, is going to illuminate that you are perfectly valuable and going to be supported by Spirit, both financially and emotionally, because the 2nd house rules our family history, rules history, and people, their memories, they build on their memories. History becomes a story that we bring into the future or into the present about enjoyment and relaxation. And Virgo, you're a natural workhorse. I don't know if you're a horse, but you're very practical, and you're almost the type of sign that would say, well, let me get this done and then I'll relax. Or let me just finish this up and then I can relax. And I think Spirit is looking at some way to make your 5th house of Capricorn, even though Capricorn restricting your house of fun, that's kind of interesting. But trying to make that more palatable. Actually taking the idea that Capricorn rules structure and fun is actually really important to the balance and structure of accomplishment. So Virgo, our first angel is Chantal. Then we have Bethany. They came out together. Then we have Opal. And then we have Isabella. And I'm going to say this because I could go to romance because the fifth house rules romance, but then I have Bethany in there in the opportunity, the obstacle. And I feel like this is about love, period. What you love. There's nothing wrong with loving being single. I love being single and I love my time and I've spent a lot of it by myself, but I'm never lonely. And I feel like, some of us will be at work, at work or at a job, and we'll be talking with our coworkers and say, oh, if I could, I'd just go home and lay in bed all day and relax. And then when you have that opportunity, you never do it. That would be Virgo. So I think this is about allowing that to happen, something like that. Chantal's being joined by the Wind Fairy. Bethany's being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Opal's being joined by the Disruption card. And the final is Isabella being joined by the Burden card. Okay, I want to say that I think that this Libra full moon for Virgo in the second house of self-worth, family history, money I make from my own skills in a T-square, a very tense conversation with the fifth house of fun, of childlike behavior, of hobbies, of romance, of, in some ways, giggles. I kind of think of the fifth house as kids being drunk on sugar, how fun that is. Because here we literally have this full moon illuminating the difference between what you love in an emotional body and what you think over here. And Spirit is saying, Virgo, it's time for you to take care of yourself. There's Bethany again, total self-care. And there's the fight between the emotional body and the head. But, the Lady of the Lake holds Excalibur in a very relaxed way. She's not gripping that sword. So this is where I think Spirit wants you to go. There's a balance to be had about self-care, because I have the Disruption card and Opal saying that your children are safe on heaven and earth. And I think that maybe potentially Virgo has experienced some disruption with their children or a childlike energy in your life. I mean, adults can behave like petulant children, and that this is illuminating even more why it's important for you to take care of yourself. Because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture. A happy outcome follows your positive expectation. So Isabella goes with Chantal. These are the two angels. And then the Burden card goes with the Wind Fairy, which is the burden is your brain. So I want to offer it this way. I think that this Libra full moon will illuminate the need for balance. It's not about, one extreme or the other. And your personal pleasure, your personal wants and desires of your heart are as important, if not more important, than anything else going on right now. And if you give life to that, you may actually see the balance coming in that you didn't see before. Okay, going on to Libra. This would be in your first house, Libra rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I am a Libra sun. This is hitting me directly. Oh, it's very exciting because it's going to illuminate my fourth house. Well, it isn't really. I'm an Aries rising, so this is my 10th house. But my sun, it would illuminate my fourth house. So Libra, Capricorn is your fourth house. Let's look and see what it is between your sense of self, Libra, first house, self, and family, fourth house, home, hearth, property. All right, our first angel is Merlina. The second is Serena. The third is Adriana. And the final is Vanessa. Libra, Merlina is being joined by the Risk card. Serena is being joined by the Love card. Adriana's being joined by the burden card. And Vanessa's being joined by the swan. I could laugh so hard because this Libra thing cracks me up. I have to say that this is indeed about intimate love. I'm going to put it right out there. I think this is about partnership. It's about you in partnership. It's about you and your home life and how you could potentially, this T-square is hitting your home life, okay, or hitting your fourth house. And so I think there may be the potential that Merlina and the risk card are trying to break up something that is sitting underneath you as an insecurity, an unsuredness, and it's time to risk not knowing, but rather going to the dark side of the moon. And I say that because I feel like that the man in the moon that we all see reflecting everything is that one side. And now this whole Pluto rules what you can't see. Pluto rules what's underneath. So I feel like giving life to the idea that the biggest thing that Libra gets to do is risk a bigger picture than what you can see. You're an air sign. And sometimes in trying to find the balance, you may inadvertently only go to what your mind can see. Serena is here asking in the opportunity, the obstacle for you to be serene about love and the abundance thereof. Okay? Because you're in your head too much. And if you think about it, this Pluto has been going on and squaring Libra since 2008. All the cardinal signs have been hit really hard by the Pluto aspect, but it's because it's breaking up the lies that you tell yourself, the lies of not being valuable, not being viable, not being anything that brings you less than. I can't quite think of anything, because part of this for Libra is to allow yourself to be led to the higher vibration that you're calling forth. And you're trying to drive the bus and it's not your turn. So I feel like this is about God's turn to lead you. And again, I can't help but say that I believe the people that watch material such as mine that I'm producing on YouTube are seekers of a bigger experience, are inviting in the truth of this plane of the earth and the laws of attraction. So to walk through the unknown darkness is as important as experiencing the good stuff, because Vanessa is saying through your faith, there is complete transformation, Libra, and through your willingness to participate in your own version of what you want. Sometimes in the balance of things, Libra will be like, well, I don't want too much. That's not fair. Maybe you're putting a limit on things. Capricorn, fourth house, keeping a ceiling on. Well, I can only have so much. No. The sky's the limit, and it's time to risk it. And your job, Pluto, making this aspect is your talk may be good, but you may be sitting underneath going, I'm not sure, really. Hasn't happened yet. This is my age. Oh my God, this is my age. Oh my God, another birthday's going by. No more. It's time to say, I don't care when it happens. All I care about is the quality of it. I want to have a fabulous home life. I want to live in a fabulous home. I want laughter to permeate the rooms and the walls. I want the smell of good food and everything. And it's all viable. And my job is to continue to line up to that and to risk everything that I haven't seen yet, but I feel it in my heart. That's where we're going. All right, let's go on to Scorpio. Libra is your 12th house, Scorpio. Okay. So this is happening in the house of ashrams, 12th house, ashrams, ancestors, things that happen when we're alone. It represents research in hospitals and I always picture the girl in her room with her brush singing, in the mirror, imagining that she's a big star, but she's too timid to step out. And this Scorpio Libra full moon in your 12th house is illuminating something going on in your everyday life of the 3rd house. So let's see what Spirit has to say. I would imagine on some level, Scorpio is holding themselves small. 12th house, you don't see me. The 12th house is behind the 1st house. It's what you don't readily see. The 3rd house is my everyday life, my communications, my, running my kids to school, going to my job, running to the market, getting to the bank, and all these dynamics. So somewhere, and I venture to say it could be on the teams that you work with, the teams that you're on in some way. If you have been holding yourself small, maybe it's time not to do that anymore and to implement the harmony and peace that Libra has to offer. And that's where your real power will lie, because your ruling planet is part of this T-square, and it is at that 28th degree. So what are you thinking? Again, our thoughts are such important things. Okay, Scorpio, our first angel is Astera. The second is Aurora. The third is Maya. And the final is Celeste. This is absolutely about your work. I could feel it. Okay, here we go. Full moon is going to illuminate something in the 12th house, which is kind of nice because the 12th house, it could be a dim house, could feel like there's no lights on in that house. Astera is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Aurora is being joined by the Trust card. Maya is being joined by the Wasp. And the Earth Fairy is joining Celeste. I absolutely 100% think something's going on within your work sector. And, you know, I want to say this at home. If you're a stay-at-home parent, that's your work sector. Because I think Astera is illuminating something to do with your thought process about how you're being perceived on your teams. This is very Geminian to me. Third house is ruled by Gemini by nature. Capricorn is the third house for Scorpio. So there could be this feeling of not being seen by your authorities, not being seen by the people that are above you. And now it's time to reach for the stars, to allow the lie that you tell yourself, Pluto in Capricorn, 28 degrees, making a tense aspect to this full moon, illuminating that you have been participating in your own less than. Because now is the time to trust and to jump off the balcony, because what you want is highly possible for you in your work life. But part of that is in some ways to realize that, I got to say it this way, Scorpio, you may not have actually said a word to anybody, but somehow people are reading your energy, because Spirit is trying to teach you about your energy when you're not happy. And if you're quiet when you're not happy, or you just kind of disappear because you don't want to be Scorpio stinger, your energy is still palatable to others. So I think this is really about allowing the thought process, however you're viewing yourself, letting Pluto kill those lies that you're telling yourself. Again, lies where you're not valuable, lies where you're too this or you're too that. Pluto is like, to me, the natural psychologist detective. It's like you would be a profiler in like a criminal situation, being able to profile the criminal and feel how their patterns would be. And sometimes that can be off-putting to partnerships, Libra. Okay, so if you've been holding yourself small in your partnerships because you think that you will be left behind, and that could be, the 12th house is an ancestral house. You could actually be feeling an intuitive hit that the relationship you're in isn't aligned, and boom, this T-square is going to bring it to light and shift things. I tend to go to work a little bit because here we have the Earth Fairy and we have Celeste saying a new home or a new place of employment is going to bring in new, more positive energy. And there's the Earth Fairy, which is your foundation. So I want to offer it this way. I think that there's the possibility that Scorpio may be thinking more challengingly and more negatively about themselves than other people do. And if you take that off the table and then start to really assess it, Spirit is trying to bring you closer and closer to what you want to experience. And because this is all happening, this T-square is happening in your third house. I think it has to do with how you're working with others and being seen more and feeling more valuable on that team or in that community within that group. So allow for that. Okay, let's go on to our Sagittarius rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This full moon of Libra is going to be in your 11th house of networks, social media, your hopes and dreams. It's naturally ruled by Aquarius, the 11th house. So it's very scientific, innovative, revolutionary, forward-thinking house. And it's making a challenging aspect to your second house. Capricorn is your second house. This would be where you could potentially have your own individual skills, and then somehow within there's some sort of oppression attached to Capricorn here. There's something with Pluto being there. There's a breaking away of an old dynamic. There's something that's been happening historically with Sagittarius. And I feel like the 11th house of your hopes and dreams. The 11th house is also a house of wealth. So there's the potential that as you give life to something bigger, Libra full moon illuminating something within your 11th house of networks that maybe has to die, that Capricorn second house. And when I say die, it has to transform. If you're feeling less than, if you're feeling unseen again, then it's time to claim yourself. The second house rules your voice. So are you speaking within your network? Are you allowing your voice to be heard? And by the time we get so pissed off or screaming, our voice isn't heard. Pluto could bring screaming. All right, oops. Let's see, Sagittarius, what's going on. You know, Sagittarius is a mutable sign. It's very cooperative and generous and sweet and loving by nature. And so, again, this might be somewhere where it's time to use your voice to speak up a little bit for your wants and desires. All right, Sagittarius, our first angel is Merlina. The second is Grace and Antoinette. The third is Adriana. And the final is Yvonne. There may be a dynamic within your 11th house of Libra where you're a little afraid of pissing off your network or your people. Let's see who's joining Merlina. Figure this one out. We have the Fear card. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Love card. Adriana is being joined by the Frog. And Yvonne's being joined by the Movement card. I think that this is really interesting because there may be a vulnerability that Sagittarius has been holding about their own voice within the network, within your situation. Let's say you're a yoga teacher, okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. And within your yoga community, you've wanted to implement things or you've wanted to stretch yourself a bit, but you're feeling a little timid and shy, or your voice has not been recognized. I think now is a time to really kind of step up your game a little bit and own your fear and face everything and rise. Because again, it could be on some level that it isn't other people, but your own story that you've been telling yourself, your own history. The second house naturally rules our family history in addition to history overall. So within the family, if you have not had a strong voice, you may take that into your network, into, you know, I kind of see a spider web when I see the 11th house of being able to reach so many people on the internet through TikTok and Instagram and all the other types of social media, because I believe that it's time to have compassion for yourself and the things that you love. And I believe that it's an opportunity here to see that you're actually being led, and maybe some of the challenging aspects that Pluto is representing by pointing at your second house of self-worth is actually part of what you're going to bring to the table of your network, because it is through your own vulnerability that you actually start to see things shift. So let's look at it this way, Sagittarius. What if there's something about how you've been expressing yourself and you've been really cooperative and you've been thinking, oh, you know, if I keep being cooperative, other people will be cooperative back. And now it's time to speak up. And what you're afraid of is that you've waited too long to speak up. So now it's about being compassionate as you express what you love and being proud of yourself for doing so. I think that's how it plays out, because that's where the movement comes in and where fear becomes something that empowers us rather than pulls us under. Okay, let's go on to our Capricorns. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This is in your 10th house. Libra is your 10th house, and it is making a challenging aspect to your first house of self. When I say self, the first house also rules the body. body movement. I think a baby comes out, the first thing it figures out is how to move its body around. Okay, at least that's what we think as adults. God knows what the baby's actually thinking. All righty, Capricorn, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This Libra full moon is happening in the 10th house. That's the highest part of your chart, your career sector. And it's making a challenging aspect to your sense of self. So what does Spirit want Capricorn to know? Our first angel is Shanti, the angel of peace. The second is Xana, the angel of protection. We have Isabella in the angel's advice. And finally, Rochelle. Oh, wow. I think Capricorn has been evolving with Pluto transiting you since, 12 years now? I'm longer, 2008, 18, 14 years now. So I feel as if what you've been learning, Capricorn, within your public eye, I guess, for lack of a better term, the people that see you, that know you, that are in partnership, both professionally and personally, this is a time when your heart gets to evolve and what you want from your heart versus what is been superimposed upon you, what has been given to you, and you've dutifully taken it on. Now there's an opportunity to really let the lie that you've told yourself, I must do this, the public, the way I'm perceived in public is at stake if I don't do this. And now Pluto's in your first house saying, are you sure? Because maybe your happiness is just as important as everybody else's. Shanti's being joined by the horse. Xana's being joined by the eagle. Isabella's being joined by the goblin. And Rochelle's being joined by the risk card. I totally think, Capricorn, that this is time to rewrite the structure. Saturn, can be so repressive, your ruling planet, because it's all about following the rules, but the rules are changing. Our lives are changing and evolving. And I think Saturn is really like, hey, I've been evolving too. I no longer want to eat my children. I don't want to abandon my son Chiron anymore. I want to embrace things. Please see me as evolved, because I feel like Capricorn is moving towards a sense of peace. Here we have the horse, and here we have Shanti. And I feel like, and I'm going to go to the final position for Capricorn, because now is the time to risk what you want from your heart, what makes you happy, and to allow how other people perceive you to blow up if it is not aligned to what you want, because you will be protected. Here we have the connection to the angelic realm and integrity, and Xana saying you're being protected. And it's really time right now, in order for you to be happy, to let the personality and the ego that is invested in how everybody else perceives you, allow that to be kaboom, because it edges God out. And now you can be a true leader, because Capricorn is a leader, absolutely, but a leader from your heart. And it's time to risk it. So there could be some illuminations that show up. And I kind of almost feel like there are comments that people say that you personally as a Capricorn take deeply in and start to muse upon them. And I think that initially they may create a bit of disruption, but in claiming your peace of mind, claiming who you are, you're going to start to see a deeper wisdom to that comment and maybe even be grateful for it. Maybe more of a comment, a situation, whatever, but it's going to be Plutonian. All right, let's go on to our Aquariuses, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Very interesting, Aquarius, because this is happening in your 9th house. And Libra being your 9th house is going to be harmony and peace within your beliefs. And Aquarius by nature rules nervous breakdowns and sudden moves and jarring events. So this would be really nice because it's making a T-square to your 12th house. And maybe this is giving you an opportunity to feel more at peace with what you don't know or what you can't see, which has been giving you anxiety for months. All right, here we go, Aquarius. Oop. Our first angel is Crystal. The second is Maya. The third is Opal. And the final is Sonia. Ooh, wow. That's very cool, wow, I was saying. because I think that there's, Aquarius by nature rules space. It rules, diversity, if you think about it. I mean, it rules networks and all sorts of humanity and all sorts of diversity. So I think there's something about you learning about trusting an inner knowing or trusting your communications with your team on the other side. Crystal's being joined by the butterfly. Maya's being joined by the horse. Opal's being joined by the restriction card. And Sonia's being joined by the bee. I think you're having a moment of ancestral connection, because 12th house rules ancestors, it rules karma, it rules past lives. And here's the 9th house of beliefs, religion, philosophy, the gypsy, the wanderer, the nomad. So I think what's happening, and this really feels like it could be very comforting as you surrender this Libra full moon, illuminating a belief that's no longer served you about maybe something that's been chasing you from a past life experience. Because Crystal is saying, have faith and hope, there's more on the horizon. And I want to say for Aquarius is, with all the activity that's been going on in your house anyway, Saturn's there right now, Mars just left it. Off the top of my head, you may be actually coming out of a cocoon that it has more to do with how you feel on the inside, trusting an inner knowing, being revolutionized from your personality, because you're definitely being taught something about connecting with spirit. And I think on some level you might be fighting it a little bit because you're here in the earth and you think, oh no, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. But it is starting to make sense, because there is Sonia, which represents deceased loved ones, and there's the bee card. And this to me really feels like, we talk a lot about Aquarius not being particularly emotional. I get it, because they rule science, it rules technology, it rules things that feel computerized, so there's no emotional input. But I do think that Aquarius is emotional, but I think what they do is they tend to connect to the more kinetic energies of emotion. So the anxiety. And I think this is an opportunity for you to start to use that anxiety as a measure of communication from spirit. If you're feeling anxious, then there must be something that you're not paying attention to, that a deeper knowing is calling forth. And Pluto being in the 12th house is trying to blow up an old pattern that you have from lifetimes ago. And now it's time to surrender to that a little bit, because that is where your true victory and your transformation will lie. And I want to say, in some ways, your greatest power, because as you surrender to that, and when I say that, I'm talking specifically about an inner knowing that's taking that anxiety, and that could be the Plutonian energy, that something has got to die, something has got to die. The dying is the lie that you don't already know something deep inside. And that's the 9th house of beliefs, the 9th house of connection to the angelic realm. It rules literally angelic speak. So this is very exciting for Aquarius. And I want to offer it this way, because as you allow the full moon to illuminate this, you really do offer an invitation to humanity to follow you where no man has gone before, in trusting that spirit is real. There is no death. There is only the physical shedding of the physical experience that gives relief to the mind that we carry through this lifetime, that then enables us to go and evolve to new places when we reincarnate. Okay, now I'm going to go on to my final sign, Pisces. Venus is traversing Pisces right now. She loves it. Jupiter and Neptune are joined. They're considered exact today. So this is a very, very fortuitous time. And this full moon on the 16th coming up, there'll still be this dance between between Neptune and Jupiter. And Venus will be creeping closer and closer to them, as will Mars. But I really want to talk about your self-worth, how you feel. Your best friend is in the house. Your rulers are in the house. I think this full moon could very much illuminate and transform you. It's in your 8th house, Pisces. And again, this is a house of death and rebirth. It's making an aspect to Pluto in Capricorn in your 11th house of networks, in your 11th house of hopes and dreams, in your ability to make money, because that it also is a house of money. And I can't help but think about the 11th house for you, because again, it's about paying attention to your mind and what you're thinking, and potentially giving you opportunity to shift how you're thinking. So let's see, Pisces. Our first angel is Rochelle. The second is Grace and Antoinette. The third is Xana. And the final is Archangel Raphael. Rochelle is being joined by the Deer. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Truth card. Xana is being joined by the High Priestess. And Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Wasp. I'm going to say this lovingly to you, Pisces, because I think the Libra full moon in the 8th house of transformation is going to illuminate where you could potentially be participating in giving too much of your power away, which has been contributing to your unhappiness. And that as it makes this aspect to Pluto, I really kind of think it's going to hit you from your hopes and dreams, the aspect of that, or that focal point for that house. I don't know if it's really in your networks, but if there's something to do with your networks, then it would be the deeper level would be how that network is affecting your hopes and dreams. Because here we have Rochelle saying to honor and follow the guidance of your heart. And there's the Deer. And I'm going to tell you, I think this is fear. And I say that because we have Archangel Raphael and the Wasp card in the final position. So I think that there's something that Pisces actually fears will happen that they know is a destiny point. It's a point where your soul is contracted and something started last October and started brewing, and it could be in your partnerships and you ignored it, or you didn't want it to really take place because there was some sort of cooperation, but it was holding people down, because 11th house Capricorn is somehow restrictive. So now it's about Pisces having compassion for the situation as Pluto reveals the lie that you're telling yourself and the truth that needs to come forth, because you will be protected. This is a soul. There's something going on with your soul right now. There's a destiny point happening. That's what the High Priestess is telling me. And you are protected in the sense of you've contracted to come in and deal with this on a more heartfelt basis. And the healing will come from the epiphany that you have, that on some ways you have been contributing to your hopes and dreams not coming true, because you've been hoping that somebody else would actually give you that leg up. 8th house is other people's money. It rules inheritances, it rules sex. So we could be entangled in something because the sex is like an elixir. It has a power over you. And now it's time to really kind of have grace for yourself as you realize that, oh my gosh, I've been part of this, my own unhappiness. And it really doesn't matter that you have been participating. The pearl, the wisdom is that now you recognize it and gives you an opportunity to shift and to make yourself more important. And rather than just having to run away from the situation, you can sit in it and own it. And it takes the sting off of things and it actually brings a healing. So, okay. That's it for this full moon in Libra on this Saturday, April 16th. Oh God, I think I said March during the video. But anyway, April 16th. I'll be back next Sunday with the weekly forecast, astrological forecast. And again, I'm doing the webinar at the end of the month on the eclipse day for the nodes as the beginning of a series of webinars that will reveal the soul's contract within the natal chart. So I hope you'll look into that. Reach out to me, just send me an email below. I'm still kind of dinosauring my way through this technology to set up this webinar. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please like, please subscribe, please share and comment. Thank you so much. Sending love to you.